Come on, bitch, let's go. Come on, get ready, bitches. You haven't seen nothing yet. Come on.
Valentino, Versace, Lamborghini, Bugatti. I got money to burn. I'm single and I'm naughty.
Come on.
Tiffany's, Cartier, Gucci, Armani.
Come on.
Break out your black card, boys. It's time to party.
Hello, my dear friends. How are you? I did happen to notice that some people were commenting under the live I did last Sunday with Your Moms Are Watching Thea that they didn't know who Thea was and they wondered if Thea was feeling okay. And the answer is she wasn't. So everybody was very hard on her, but I want to say this on my show this week. Thea has a medical issue and she did not want to let me down on the live, and she wasn't feeling well. And she did the live anyway to support me because she actually had gone to some events that I had some questions about at BravoCon 2023. She went to Phaedra's birthday party, and she went to the Danielle Cabral's charity event, and she attended as a VIP person there. And of course, Thea's an insider. She came up in the entertainment industry. She was Julia Roberts' associate. She read her scripts and helped her development part of her company. Thea's brother was a manager agent that I came up with in Hollywood. And Thea went to a lot of the same events I did at Leo DiCaprio's house, etc. So Thea's also a writer, and she wrote 2 books recently in the Bravo sphere, which are in the description of that YouTube live. Now, I noticed people having trouble getting beyond that aspect of things, that she's wearing a hoodie and not feeling well. And I think people didn't realize that she was sick. And so she was getting cold and she was shaking, which was why she kept putting her hoodie up and she was like kind of trying to get off the live. And I didn't know. And by the way, I didn't know she was sick. She didn't want to tell me. So anyway, she was really trying to be a good friend. And I hope that you guys could get beyond any visuals ever on my YouTube lives, because it's about the content, baby. And there was a lot of it in that one.
That's hot. That's hot. That's hot. That's hot. That's hot.
And just in case you didn't know what was in that live that I dropped, we talked about Real Housewives of New Jersey, what's happening at the reunion, Jim Leonard's secret plan with Margaret's ex-friend Laura, what's going to happen on next season, what was Thea's experience with Andy Cohen about Teresa Giudice. We discussed what really happened in detail at the Kenya Moore event, Real Housewives of Atlanta, and what was going on with producers behind the scenes and, legally what was going on with Kenya Moore's situation, which no one had spilled that detail. Like, what exactly were the pictures? Where did the pictures come from? Spilled that. And, what the producers knew or didn't know. We discussed a little bit Andy Cohen's 15-year anniversary that he just had for Watch What Happens Live. Very strange number to celebrate. We talked about Brandi Glanville's allegations that producers knew about Taylor Armstrong's physical abuse from her husband, which of course I have insight on. We talked Monavie gossip. That's Louis Ruelas's association through Influencer Nation. That's Teresa's husband. And we also talked about the hustle of lead lists, which ties into Monavie and Influencer Nation and Louis Ruelas, Teresa Giudice's husband. So I tell you all this because I don't want you guys to miss this juicy content that's in this live, because I will not be saying it again. Aww. And unfortunately, Thea wasn't feeling well. So I want you guys to just turn off the video if you don't like to look at Thea and I physically and listen, okay? Because I don't want to leave anybody behind in the gossip landscape as we move forward. Because as you know, in my Patreon especially, gossip builds on gossip. One more little announcement before we move on to the show. I'm doing a live again tonight, Sunday night, but this time earlier because, by the way, Real Housewives of New Jersey tonight is a repeat. They are not doing a new show. They're not dropping episode 10 of season 14 until next weekend. So it's a repeat. So you can join me on my live tonight at 9 p.m. East Coast time. Sarah from Texas is joining me because we have some tea we want to spill to you guys. And in this particular case, Sarah was the best person to do it with me. And I think you're going to really find it entertaining. And yes, it involves Jeff Lewis because obviously, Sarah's there. But so that's exciting, something to look forward to tonight when there's no Bravo. So I've been dying to do this show because I took a day off for 4th of July and I find it really difficult for me, but I also realized I was burning out. And this is because, you guys, I worked straight 21 days, literally every single day doing content, and I needed a day off. So I took 4th of July, but that doesn't mean I wasn't researching gossip because, as you know, I'm always sleuthing at all times in many, many places. By the way, happy 4th of July to you and your family. I hope you had a wonderful barbecue or whatever you did. I took the day off, as I mentioned, and John and I went to the beach all day and jumped waves and surfed. And then we went to Best Buy because he loves electronics and he got to look at all the electronics there and play with them. And then we went to Buffalo Wild Wings for dinner, and I'm not supposed to eat that, and I did anyway, and I definitely am going to die about 10 years earlier based on it because I already have high cholesterol, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do for your kid. And I sure did that. And boy, it wasn't awful. It was fun. And then we came back and watched fireworks. And where we live, there's a lot of military. So they really go all out on the 4th of July with the music and, you know, classic rock and huge display of fireworks, like better than Disney, 30 minutes. It's amazing. And everybody's really into patriotism and it's just really nice. And generally speaking, it's a respectful group of people. It's very democratic in the sense that people honor each other's political viewpoints versus try to bully them into submission. And that is democratic. Telling someone that they're a loser or, you know, F this person or F that person is not democratic. And our founding fathers would be horrified to see people who are patriots doing that to each other because they believed in the freedom of believing in what you believe in based on the values of what they're representing. And, you know, you don't call someone a jerk because of their belief system. That's not the way it's supposed to be. That's what the colonists were running away from when they came to America under horrific circumstances to escape that kind of prosecution. So our founding fathers were super sensitive to it because they had witnessed it firsthand. And they didn't want to see people not be able to believe in what they wanted to believe in. They wanted the freedom to believe in it, even if you didn't like it. And yes, you could try to sway somebody, but not at the expense of your integrity or character or theirs, and certainly not in a disrespectful manner. That's not what the founding fathers intended for our great nation. Now, I have many people from many countries in here, so if you didn't celebrate the 4th of July this last week, I hope you also had a fabulous time doing whatever you do in your country for fun over the summer. Woo woo! So what is today's show about and why the hell is it juicy? Well, I think it's pretty juicy because I got into a bit of a row with Whitney Rose from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City because Whitney Rose and her husband are involved in multi-level marketing. And some of the people that she's in cahoots with on her Whitney Rose Beauty that she's announced have really bad reputations and have hurt a lot of people that are what they call distributors. And so I felt like I had a duty of care to talk about it with you guys so that you would be aware of it, especially since she's going to use her Bravo celebrityness to sell this skincare line and this distribution and get people to sign up for the opportunity. And I don't think it's right. And I told her so. And I said, I really think you need to backtrack on this. You know that a lot of people that you're doing business with have been alleged to be involved in pyramid schemes, which are illegal. And I don't think you should move forward. And she was like, no, I'm really proud of this. And I was like, okay. And that made me want to cover it today because you can't believe the scandal behind all of this. And I'm going to break it all down for you in a deep dive of Whitney Rose and Justin Rose from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Scandalous business practices. And yes, it has Louis Ruelas vibes. from Real Housewives of New Jersey. And then we're going to move on and we're going to talk about some tea that I got that was exclusive to Real Housewives of New Jersey. I can't wait to tell you about it. And I also want to comment on the Carlos King live that he did with Teresa Giudice. They did it together. You probably noticed that Carlos King went from being sort of more pro Melissa to suddenly super pro Teresa. Well, that's because they collabed on a live and he dropped it on his show. And there were some things that I knew were lies right off the bat, and I want to call them out to you guys. And then there were things that weren't, and have been like the standard messaging that Teresa Giudice has been dropping. I wanted to comment on that particular stuff. And then I got some clarification on the reunion and some other things. The gossip was kind of right, but not perfect, that was out there regarding this. So I want to hone it a bit. So that's going to be on today's show. So I hope you enjoy it.
Come on, bitch, let's go.
So before we get into this sketchy business that Whitney Rose has started, Whitney Rose Beauty, along with the MLM component, I want to remind you guys that I covered something way back on YouTube about Whitney Rose's jewelry line, where she was selling spiritual jewelry that was, let's say, between $50 plus in price point. And it was supposed to be really beautifully designed and high quality and all these things was the way she was kind of branding the product. Well, it turns out that she was buying all of this jewelry from Alibaba, and she didn't bother to reshoot the photography of the jewelry. So she literally took a picture from Alibaba's website. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a hugely discounted Chinese manufacturing company. You can buy from, wholesale manufacturers out of China jewelry. Pretty much anything else you want to produce product-wise out of China. And you can then, I guess, get it on the cheap and then resell it somewhere else. Well, the thing that was upsetting, obviously, about this from multiple standpoints, but was that this jewelry was really, really marked up a lot from its original price point. It wasn't necessarily high quality coming out of Alibaba, China. There wasn't much spirituality attached to it at all. In fact, the opposite. And of course, it was pretty embarrassing that she didn't even bother to order one sample of the jewelry and reshoot it as a luxury item to at least mask the fact that the item was cheap and from Alibaba. She didn't even bother to do that. She just ripped off the picture from Alibaba and threw it on the website. So obviously not a great look for Whitney Rose, given that Meredith Marks' stuff is super high-end, really well-crafted, great quality, made in the US mostly. Meredith really does design it. Like, Whitney's stuff had no thought or care behind it in regards to what she's putting out. Okay, so that was the first scandal. And that scandal was such a scandal that when I did that video, it got back to the cast of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Whitney Rose was upset. She was sure someone in the cast had leaked this information to me. A whole uproar of stuff happens. I'm not going to get into it. You probably see some of it next season. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know. I don't want to ruin it for people. But the bottom line is that Whitney Rose is very upset about this, and she thinks one of her cast members threw her under the bus, and that's how I found out about it. Now, only I know the truth. But it really does show that Whitney Rose isn't putting the time that she should in her businesses. So let's just start off with that. Now, I wanted to like Whitney Rose. So many people were like, out of the cast, she's one of the nicest ones. My experience with Whitney is she was the only one who, when I was on the show, was nice to me. All these things I've heard from a few different people now. I wanted to like Whitney. I even tried to chit chat with her a little bit to kind of try to get to know her better and give her the benefit of the doubt, even though I knew all this sketchy crap about her husband, mainly up until this point, from back in 2021 when I first covered this back in January of 2021. I really had hopes for her, but it fell apart. Because she's either a dummy or she is knowing she's taking advantage of people. I said it as plain as day to her that she's associating with people who have very bad reputations and have been alleged to be involved with pyramid schemes. You know the rest. So I guess Whitney and I won't be friends, I'm going to assume at this point. But perhaps after listening to today's show, she might rethink things, and that would make me grateful and happy, and I would embrace her totally. And maybe we could talk and I'll help her with a real business so she doesn't have to do this BS. Now, what should be crossing your mind at this point in the show is, why hasn't any of her castmates called out that her husband, Justin Rose, is heavily involved in multi-level marketing and really sketchy businesses and MLM and all this stuff when everybody else's business seems to be being discussed? And I cannot answer that question for you. However, I guess it could have something to do with the fact that MLMs are very popular in Utah and in the Mormon community because many of the women don't work and are very wealthy and they need something to do and they have girlfriends and they like social jobs. So MLMs are not considered a quote real job, and they end up buying into some sort of product and they can refer it to their friends and it's like fun and they get money and stuff like that. And they don't really care if they lose money. This isn't everybody, but that's why it's so popular. And they use their connections within the religion to get everybody enrolled in it. And that's what I understood from Sarah Jane and some others who come on my show from Utah that are familiar with this. Now, let's be clear. We're not talking about Mary Kay Cosmetics here, which had a very normal traditional commission. You would buy a product cheap, you would sell it for an up price, you would get a piece of commission from that direct sale, and the more you sold and hit threshold, the more rewards you would get from the company, and those rewards would allow you to feel great pride in being a great salesperson within the Mary Kay line. And you could do it through parties, or they had a lot of different kind of unique ways of selling grassroots. This is not to be confused with that. All right, so first and foremost, what the hell is Whitney Rose's beauty line? Because it's gone through a few different name revisions. One was Iris and Beau, and then it became Wild Rose Beauty by Whitney Rose. And that is where we find ourselves today. If you go to the website, there's her talking about it right on there. Let me play you a clip.
I'm so excited to share with you that Wild Rose Beauty has grown and evolved into something much bigger and more beautiful than I could have ever imagined. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone who has supported me along the way as I've built my dream skincare line. And the thing that I will never forget is the community that we've built together. I am so grateful for all the moments and memories that we have made. I feel so blessed to have all of you. But don't worry, you can still get all the products that you love plus more. We are taking this to the next level, so I invite you to check out Soul People.
So you may ask me, but Dana, why was that so upsetting to you? Well, because Soul People have really serious allegations from stealing from people and hurting them. And so I was like, well, that's an interesting collab to be so proud to put on your homepage. But the reason she isn't upset about it is because her and her husband come from multi-level marketing. So they're used to operating in this kind of sketchy space. But in order to get all of this, you have to know the origin story of Justin Rose, Whitney Rose as a businesswoman, and where this product actually came from. So first, I'm going to play you a clip from my bonus audio. This one was called Diana Jenkins Mystery Cracked, Hayden Panettiere, Blind Broken Down, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Justin Rose New Skin, President Gossip, and Britney Spears Freedom Update and her dad's dummy companies. Okay, if you guys want to see it, this is from back in November 23rd, 2021. That's the title. I'm going to play you just a clip from this bonus audio to do with Justin to get us started with a big bang. Justin was, of course, involved with New Skin in 2000, and in about 2003, let's just say, to be generous, he becomes the president of North America, but, involved with all basically the sales practices for the company. That's his focal point. So in January of 2014, the Chinese government announces that they're investigating New Skin because New Skin was huge in China. They were selling it to the Chinese people as like a way to make money. So listen, China does not mess around, okay? First of all, there's a lot of corruption in China. And if they're not benefiting from a company that's doing something that might be deemed questionable, the Chinese government is certainly not going to allow it to last for very long. It is unfortunate, but, that comes with any communist government, communist capitalist society, which China has become over time. It was strictly communist, and then it became both communist capitalist. And that came because Mao Zedong, who was the head of China, he realized at a certain point, actually maybe it was Deng Xiaoping, but anyway, it was either Mao or Deng, but one of them decided that they had to incorporate capitalism within the communist model. And so that's where that comes from. And what does that really mean? It means like the generals in the Communist Party work at companies. Okay, the Chinese government benefit from. Okay, that was a lot, but okay, we'll move back to the gossip here. So what ends up happening is the Chinese government announces that it will be investigating Nu Skin after the Chinese newspaper People's Daily writes a report suspecting that the company is doing an illegal pyramid scheme. And in 2016, Nu Skin has to pay $47 million as a settlement for operating a pyramid scheme because China sues them in federal court. So the country of China does decide that after their own investigation that they believed that the company indeed was running a pyramid scheme. And so they take it to America and they sue them in federal court. Because it's a large company, they can't really indict Nu Skin. So this is like what the government's next best move is, I guess, in China. So Nu Skin was also forced to pay $750,000 for bribing Chinese officials. So they did that as well, because I guess the Nu Skin higher-ups were bribing the Chinese government to try to get the situation resolved, which is, completely unethical and immoral, but unfortunately it is the way that the Chinese do things. However, in this case, Nu Skin got caught. And why did they get caught? Well, because the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission did a probe on it. Because Nu Skin is $1 billion company and they will get away with a lot more because they can pay ridiculous fines. And the government, in the end of the day, wants money for criminality. That's its own business. But at the same time, they can't really get away with things under the radar. So, yeah. So anyway, I think it's really interesting that Justin was involved with Nu Skin during all this crazy stuff happening. I would imagine as president of the company, he's the only president, right? That's a pretty high up position. I would imagine that he was quite aware of all of this. And, he probably was friends with Nedra Roney, who is a famous founder of Nu Skin. She was the one who, helped develop the product line in the beginning. And she was actually indicted towards the end of her life for prescription drug abuse, writing fake scripts, I guess, and taking prescription drugs, self-medication illegally. She also was married to a gentleman who sexually assaulted an 18-year-old girl. It sounds to me from reading it that he fooled around with her and she was 18, but she then maybe after the fact regretted it or thought it was awful while it was happening, and it went to a sexual assault level. So that's pretty nuts. Anyway, the company is riddled with legal challenges. In 1992, before Nu Skin had Justin working at it, they had reached settlements with 5 states that had accused the company of deceptive advertising and overstating the income earned by distributors. Now, I've mentioned that Lifevantage, which is where Justin currently is the head of sales for it, that they had been sued. And he was named in the original lawsuit, but then they dropped him from it. I think because he said, I am just the head of sales. I'm not in control, was Justin's defense for getting dropped. But one thing I would note, the judge did allow this case to continue. The case is still in process in 2021, this lawsuit against Lifevantage. But one of the things that the judge did give the plaintiffs in this case the right to continue to sue for, meaning he didn't say, you're right, 100%, you win, plaintiffs, you've got this, particular claim. But what he did say was that the distributors that worked for Lifevantage did get, by the judge's definition, a quote-unquote prospectus. Okay, so let me jump back in. Now we're back in 2024, just like that. What is important for you to understand? Because I know this is getting a little complicated. What's important for you to understand is that when I'm talking about distributors in the next part of this audio from 2021, I'm actually talking about regular consumers who are forced to buy into a subscription of the product in return for being able to have the opportunity to sell it, and then they make commissions based on a bunch of very complicated criteria that most people don't get their hands around, even advanced multi-level marketing people. And the thing that's hard to gather when you're listening to this is that a consumer is actually a distributor in this model. And so when I'm talking about the distributors getting wronged, it sounds like I'm talking about a business. It's not. It's just a guy. So like in Whitney Rose's beauty example, it would be a woman who signs up for her skincare product to be delivered to her every month. That is also in the quote unquote sales part of the plan, which she'll get some sort of really complicated commission off referring people to the opportunity and to a certain sales level of product and bonuses, like all this weird crap. It's like a casino game. Good luck trying to understand it. You know, when you walk up to the slot machines and they've got lines going like 18 ways, and then they've got like the purple cherry's a bonus, the green cherry means 50, like it's like that. Okay, so back to the audio from 2021 that I did on Justin Rose's involvement in Lifevantage and Nu Skin. Okay, and let me just read this part to you because you'll get why I'm bringing it up. It says, a quote, prospectus refers to a document soliciting the public to acquire securities. Plaintiff's second amended complaint contains factual allegations that plausibly identify a prospectus. The distributor documents are comprised of the distributor agreement, policies and procedures, and the plan. The distributor documents were used to offer the distributorship to the public, including plaintiffs and the proposed class. Thus, plaintiffs have sufficiently alleged the existence of a prospectus for pleading purposes. To determine whether an offering is public, the 10th Circuit instructs courts to, quote, focus on such factors as 1. The number of offerees, 2, the sophistication of the offerees, including their access to the type of information that would be contained in a registration statement, and 3, the manner of the offering. This is the best part. Stay with me. Here, plaintiffs sufficiently allege the public nature of the offering for pleading purposes. To the first factor, the plaintiffs allege that offerings were publicly made to over 2,000 distributors as investors each year, and that Lifevantage sold tens of thousands, and that's in quotes, of distribution interests each year at issue. To the second factor, plaintiff alleges that Lifevantage sold to, quote, duped and unsophisticated investor distributors, end quote, that Lifevantage worked to attract, quote, unsophisticated distributors, end quote, and that the scheme targeted, quote, unsophisticated investors, end quote. To the third and final factor, plaintiffs allege that distributors made offerings at conferences and presentations attended by other distributors and potential distributors by posting information about distributorships on the internet and by selling or offering to sell distributorships, quote, through interstate commerce or the mails. In sum, the second amended complaint alleges sufficient facts that there was indeed a public offering through a prospectus. So what do I want you to get out of that? Okay, first of all, they're targeting people who are vulnerable that can't possibly know what they're asking them to do and know what they're really getting out of the opportunity. The distributors are just people that are buying skincare crap and they're being told you can make this into a business. Okay, sound familiar?
Amazing.
And now that the judge has said that he thinks that there is the ability for this to be judged as a prospectus what these distributors were presented in the opportunity and in buying inventory and all this stuff. What it means is that there is a bar of what a prospectus has to contain legally. And if they didn't meet the bar, then it does give them a way forward to sue for damages, because the judge is saying you have a good case to say that these people believed this was a serious document that was giving them real information about the money they could make if they made an investment in the company. And that investment was the inventory purchased, or it was the membership fee, or it was whatever the hell you guys positioned it as. But I'm saying that it does meet the merits of being a public offering to a certain degree, which means it has to be factual, it has to be conservative, and it has to be transparent, okay? So these guys show that opportunity that Lifevantage was offering and presenting to these 2,000 vulnerable people that wouldn't know an investment if it bumped them on the forehead, if they can show that, then what it means is that Lifevantage was irresponsible and failed in properly disclosing the information that they should have to these people that are upset that they've lost this money in this opportunity that is bullshit. And so they therefore might be able to sue to get their money back, plus damages and their legal fees. So the judge denied a lot in this claim, but he gave them a really powerful tool in the next phase of this. Now, Lifevantage's Justin, although he's not ahead, he would be involved in the presentations and the documentation that were given to the distributors as laid out in this case, in this legal document. So that was back from November of 2021. And as you heard, Justin Rose is still working at Lifevantage at this time, but he eventually gets quote unquote fired from it, as you see on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, allegedly because he did that racy scene with Whitney Rose where they're, I don't know, painting and they're sort of naked in their bedroom and they're doing like an erotic art project or something together. It was too racy for the Lifevantage people. He was in a senior position at the company, so they said bye-bye to him. That's what Whitney and Justin wanted us to believe. But the truth is, Lifevantage seems to have gotten kicked out of the United States with their multi-level marketing because there were so many accusations that it was an illegal pyramid scheme. And now the company does distribute product in the US, but not in a multi-level marketing program. You just buy it. And if you want to do the opportunity, and I put that in air quotes, you have to be in another country, like the United Kingdom, France, Ireland, Australia, or Canada. Perhaps they haven't picked up on how awful these multi-level marketing schemes can be to consumers yet. I don't know, but needless to say, that's more the reason Justin left this company and joined Soul People. But I don't want to get ahead of myself because there's more to tell. We need to talk about Whitney Rose for a second. I'm going to go back to episode 8 that I posted on January 17, 2021, when Whitney Rose was just getting her footing on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And for those of you who don't know, I'm already up to like episode 190. So that's how far back this is. So let me play you this clip and then you're going to see why after. So Whitney Rose.
First off, I think, what the fuck is up with the freak show looking father? Also, I have issue with having a father on the show, whether or not he is a painkiller addict, an alcoholic, or whatever. I think it's wrong to exploit him for her to be a star on the show. And also, they show her dropping him off at the rehab. So several questions arise. Is it a real rehab? 1. 2, was it just a rehab looking to get some, airtime on Bravo so that they got business? 3, she claims that he's still missing. Like, is he really missing? Was it ever real? Did he ever even go to rehab? Was that all a storyline? And why do we see the freak show father more than we see the shady MLMer, I'm going to say it, disgusting looking husband? I mean, like, why do we see him more than we see the husband? You know what I mean? She's this hot 30-something-year-old married to this 50-plus-year-old old fart, and she's always talking about, I'm married to the sexiest guy in Salt Lake. And I'm like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like, this ain't it, honey.
I never thought of that. You're absolutely right. And to take the fans off the husband, Justin, because yes, Justin is problematic and will become problematic if he's featured on the show. You are bang on. Let's get into this multi-level marketing stuff because
I feel like all of Salt Lake is involved in some kind of MLM.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. Multi-level marketing in most cases is a pyramid scheme, and it is illegal. The practices are illegal unless they are proving that they are not just recruiting people and that there is true value in the claims of the product and a real product.
Right.
So always MLMs are trying to make sure that there's like a product, look at the product. And they're trying to make sure that it's never looked at that they're a recruiting company, okay? Because that's the threshold for a court to shut your ass down, right?
Right.
So what I found out, which I thought was really interesting, was there was a big MLM called Monavie. In fact, in LA, it was big too.
I used to drink that shit.
No, what is this?
They claimed that they could cure cancer, all kinds of ridiculous shit. I just drank up. I thought it would make me look younger.
I actually, like, some really wealthy people got involved with Monavie, which just shows how amazing their reach was. I had like very wealthy friends of mine selling.
And it was not cheap. It was like $40 a bottle.
Yeah, very expensive. And in fact, you know, people started having them served with their alcohol as like a kind of a sobriety boost and all this stuff.
Like a detox type of thing.
Monavie was shut down due to being called a pyramid scheme. And
yes, in 2013.
Correct. And a lot of the people from Monavie went ahead and started sponsoring a company called Lifevantage.
I have heard of Lifevantage. Did you know that Monavie was also founded in Utah?
I did not, and I have a feeling he's best friends with Justin. We should look his name up because I bet you he knows Justin.
Their headquarters are in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Wow, interesting. Well, so Monavie sponsored Lifevantage, and it just turned out that Lifevantage is the company that Justin is a quote-unquote consultant for as the head of sales for Lifevantage. And he runs all of the recruitment as a consultant because he has his own company and he works in collaboration with Lifevantage to sell their product line, which is supplements, and I bet you'll be shocked to hear this, skincare.
Oh.
Do you want to know why you're shocked to hear about skincare?
because Whitney has such glowing skin on the show, so why would she need to be in that?
Before I get into the skincare, because there is obviously an Easter egg in that, or I wouldn't have thrown it out like that. I want to call out a blind item. Who's the housewife that was married to the pyramid scheme founder and hiding money in shell companies? I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it was. And the answer was revealed, which was Whitney Rose. Now, this I had already solved, and I know where the guy who does that website got it from. There was a lawsuit filed against Lifevantage, and in the lawsuit that was filed against Lifevantage, Justin Rose was named in it as somebody they were filing a complaint against, that he was helping in this pyramid scheme, and he was misrepresenting, some of the legal positions of the company. This is the Easter egg. So I'm sitting for my Patreon VIPs, I did this audio and I actually recorded, but gave credit to the people who did the interview, where Whitney says all of the shit I'm about to paraphrase for you guys. But basically Whitney was like,
I started my very first product 4 years ago, which was a peptide serum. So Iris and Bo, it's like my third child. I had a corporate career, I worked full time, and I would work on Iris and Bo at night. I've just been a skincare enthusiast and junkie my entire life because I haven't had the best skin. Living in Utah, it's so dry. And I was using high-end clinical grade skincare and wasn't getting the results I wanted. So I just started playing around and finding out why certain ingredients or products worked for my skin. And I just started developing products with a guy I used to work with 15 years ago. He helped source ingredients for me and connected me to the developers and labs, and we've just never given up. Now we have a full skincare line, body products. It's amazing. So it's natural. We focus on anti-aging.
And I worked so hard on my product line, and I mixed it, and I had my skin, and I had problems with my skin. It was like a lifelong endeavor, like all this shit. But the bottom line is, it turns out that her product is basically the same product as the Lifevantage skincare line, because Justin is obviously in with the Lifevantage guys and works with them and is in charge of their entire downline, which I'm sure my MLM or people who are listening to this know what a downline is. He'd be at the head of that downline. So they are basically launching her product with the same stuff. So all this crap about like, you know, her dry skin and Sundance and, you know, I don't know, like her sitting on the floor at night formulating this and getting in touch with a friend from 15 years ago who put her in touch with a lab. Well, you get
I don't even remember that happening on the show. You must have really paid attention. I was too busy like seeing who Jen or Mary was going to rip apart next.
It was in page 6. She did this interview about her skincare line and she went into this elaborate story of like the inspiration behind it. So I was like shocked when it turned out that, you know, it's Lifevantage basically. So then Whitney Rose changes the name of her company from Iris Beau to Whitney Rose Beauty. I think she did that because she was trying to distance herself from the multi-level marketing thing for a while, but then she realized she couldn't sell enough product to do it. So she's now going back to multi-level marketing again, but the people that she's working with are scandalous. So let me read you the tea that I was sent. Hey blank, love your page, just followed. I saw you have recommended Wild Rose Beauty in the past, so good. I don't know if you've heard, but they have moved to an affiliate link model. That's MLM distributor model. Now with Soul People. Same product, just rebranded. It's free to join with up to 40% paid commission. We are just in pre-launch right now, and it is explosive. Anyway, let me know if this sounds like something exciting to you. All right, so Soul People is now involved. Who are these guys, you must be wondering? Well, Soul People used to be part of an MLM that was called Awakened that had a product called Zenith. And it ended up being a pyramid scheme, and they ended up being promoters of this pyramid scheme. I'm going to play you a little clip from a YouTube video I did on November 2nd, 2023, where I cover Awakened, right, before they jump ship and become Soul People to now work with Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Whitney Rose, on another multi-level marketing scheme. Now, I know it feels like each week I come up with some sort of tie to Whitney Rose and some fraud or something, and I do apologize for that. It's not intentional. But it turns out that Justin Rose has taken a job in a new company, which we sort of saw a conversation surrounding it last night on the show, which is what made me want to talk about it. And that was that he was going to a conference that he had to go to for his new job, which has caused friction in Whitney Rose and his relationship because she feels like he didn't work for a long time and she supported the family and now he wants to go back to work and she's losing all of her power again to him. Well, this made me think about, where did Justin end up working? And it turns out that he took a job at this company, Awakened, LLC, which is a very controversial MLM. Now, I don't feel bad talking about this at all because this questionable MLM has caused some issues for people. And frankly, Whitney Rose and Justin Rose's storyline this season, I think, is completely fabricated. I don't think they ever had any problems in their relationship, but they had to come up with something for the show. And so this was it, that they're having marital problems over him finally getting a job. So now let me tell you a little bit about this company. And I just want to say that this is such low-hanging fruit that I can't believe no one brought it up on last season to the people that Whitney was attacking. Very strange. He takes the job on March 20th of 2023. They announce it through a press release. Awakened appoints Justin Rose as president of the company. So this press release was very important to Justin Rose, obviously, for his family, but more important to Awakened because they were getting criticized by many influencers in the MLM space that they weren't being forthcoming with who the leadership was behind the company. And so they really needed to come up with a front man for leadership yesterday. They supposedly launched the product in October of 2022. They never went and sold to the retail market, but they did start selling to distributors at that time. And that was one of the biggest complaints because a big red flag for these types of companies is that the leadership isn't front and center because a lot of these MLMs end up being pyramid schemes. Lucky for them, Justin Rose came available. Now I'm going to give you the Cliff Note version because this is a very complicated scandal. But essentially, Awaken has a key product which is called Zenith. And Zenith had an original formula, which is the one that they were supposed to be distributing to all of their distributors. And that formula, it turns out, was alleged by another company to have been stolen from them. This caused the company to have to change the formula from a patent formula that they were using in the past that they were really excited about to another formula that wasn't the patent one. Now, I believe, and don't know, but I think that they made an excuse that there was some problem with the capsules or some issue that they had in the manufacturing that had this have to change. But the truth is, it was because of a big lawsuit that they were getting sued for like $150 million. This lawsuit still exists and actually is going to hearing in mid-November of 2023. So here are some of my favorite receipts from the lawsuit. Special shout out to YouTuber CC Suarez, who did an excellent deep dive on this lawsuit related to Awakened. And I do want to state that this lawsuit was initiated about a year ago. And so Justin was not at the company when it was initiated, but he sure as hell is with the company now and has been for about 10 months of this, and will be there around to receive the results from the hearing that's coming up. So here's what some of the lawsuit says. I'm not going to read all of it, but these were the highlights I took away. FFBM's counterclaim concerns an ongoing fraudulent conspiracy by counter defendants to pass off FFBM's revolutionary weight loss ingredients, Trisonex, which FFBM markets and sells as part of its weight loss product, Trim Fit for Life, as counter defendants' own product called Zenith. As detailed herein, Trisonex is a patented ingredient that has been the subject of multiple clinical trials, including a controlled trial conducted at UConn and published in the European Journal of Applied EJAP. A true and correct copy of the publication documenting the results of the UConn study is attached as Exhibit A. Now, this becomes important because would you believe that the people at Awakened doctored their original publication and made it appear that it was Awakened, that it was written about Zenith, and it wasn't. So they literally faked a document. Here's the last names of who these people feel are the founders or the responsible parties within Awakened for this fraudulent use of the patent and, lying on documents, etc. Mioli, James, Ralphs, and Mira, collectively referred to herein as the Awakened individual defendants. Now, one of these guys had a relationship with the previous company, and so this is where I believe he got the idea to take the patent and start a new, company, Awakened, with another MLM and his downline, which he probably had a significant downline. So he was like, why am I bothering with this? I'll just move over here, steal the patent and the product, and do it with my downline and make all the money. So here's the big part of the claim, that Awakened has created a fraudulent licensing arrangement to be able to use this patent, but they never got the rights to this patent properly. And by the way, the patent is expired now, so that's another dynamic with all of this. And then it goes on and says, Awakened individual defendants have purported to rebrand the Trisonex products as Awakened, quote, own product called Zenith. As part of the rebranding, the counter defendants have intentionally doctored the EJAP publication. So they've changed it to be about Zenith so they can hand that off to their sales representatives, I'm sure, and use it in these meetings where they're converting people to distributors. Because right now you can't buy it retail. You can only buy it if you're a distributor. So you have to buy into the business opportunity and the product, which is an outrageous price. Wait till I tell you about that. Then it says, counter defendants have provided the doctored study to prospective distributors, exactly what I just said, who have signed up for the Awakened multi-level marketing scheme to sell and distribute the sham product Zenith, which Awakened has estimated will result in more than $75 million in sales. Counter defendants also have heavily promoted their Zenith product through various YouTube presentations that falsely misrepresent the product. Hello, Justin Rose. the new president as of March 20th, 2023 of Awaken and Zenith, whose main role is going to be selling the product with his distributors, because that's his specialty. So this is pretty crazy. Why? Because if this lawsuit is successful, even if it's bullshit, all the people that are invested as distributors in Awakened are going to lose their money because the company is going to be stuck with a lien of $150 million against it. And I guarantee whoever these founders are going to jump ship and start a new one, because why the hell would they deal with that lien? All right, so now I'm going to jump back in. Remember, that was from November 2nd, 2023. Now let's jump to today, July 5th, 2024, when I'm recording today's show. Well, everybody does jump ship, just like I said. Awakened is closed, all the distributors screwed, Justin Rose is out of the job, and the next thing you know, a new company with the same founders as Awakened forms. And that company's new name is Soul People. And Soul People has this very complex commission that they pay to their distributors in a multi-level marketing platform. And they decide to make Whitney Rose's skincare their skincare line that they're going to be selling in conjunction with their pill products, which are basically a ripoff from Awakened, which they, killed off because of the lawsuits. Okay. And they also needed to smuggle the product in from somebody else. So this is really, really dark stuff, because as you get into what they require you to do to get the product and be a distributor, you have to spend a fortune doing it. In this particular one, it was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars if you wanted to do Awakened just to be a distributor. Well, same with Whitney Rose's new company that she's doing with these shysters, and I am calling them shysters, Soul People. And they have the most complex MLM commission program I have literally ever seen. There's no way that anyone's going to understand this commission program. It's so complicated. And they have recruitment commissions, retail commissions. They have, you have to keep a certain minimum to be able to sell at a certain level, to get a certain level of commission. I mean, it's crazy. So anyway, a professional MLM site that looks into these types of things and tries to determine if, the MLM program that they're studying is a legit one or not says this: Soul People conclusion, aka Whitney Rose skincare. While Soul People's problems aren't as severe as Awaken's at launch, both Soul People's products and MLM opportunity are nonetheless still problematic. Absent from Soul People's product lineup is Awakened Zenith, the weight loss supplement that completely ruined Awaken's launch. In Zenith's place, we have Vibe and Glow. That's their new product. Glow is a collagen drink, easy to price compare. Vibe purportedly contains a, quote, clinical dose of paraxanthine. Caught my eye. A clinical dose of anything implies medicine. With Soul People's Vibe, it's not registered with the FDA. So what is paraxanthine? Long story short, paraxanthine is what caffeine turns to when you ingest it. Paraxanthine supplements are readily available and, from what I can see, much cheaper than Vibe. I figure if Whitney Rose's Wild Rose beauty products were selling well standalone, they'll continue to sell well in Soul People. If they weren't selling well, they'll no doubt get a boost. I'd say it's the latter. This leads us into Soul People's problematic compensation plan. But before we get into that, I want to go over Soul People's digital product courses. Without knowing what's in the courses, I can't really comment on specifics. What we can go over, though, is who is behind the courses. Soul Mindset Manifestation is guided by Megan Dessart. In other words, Dessart has been around the block and should be able to spot a fraudulent business model. Yet a quick search on Dessart reveals she was a promoter of the recently collapsed Infinity Processing System. If Dessart can't admit Infinity Processing System is an illegal gifting scheme she stole a bunch of money through, I don't think she's someone anyone should be taking, quote, manifestation coaching lessons from. Now you understand why Whitney Rose is all about the spirituality, because people love to buy into that. Who was it? Louis Ruelas's mentors from Psychic Network, Money and Honey, People Need Love Advice. They need money advice and anything that's spiritual that will help them get over the line with love or money. Guess looks would fall into. You're going to get them. People who want to believe in the impossible, people who want to believe that they're part of something bigger, that's spiritual, that somehow is going to change their physical health or their emotional health. It's going to be the miracle pill in the bottle. Fraudsters have been tapping this since the beginning of time. The snake oil salesman. That's exactly what it was. The Psychic Network, Louis Wallace's mentors from Real Housewives of New Jersey. The lead list related to people who sign up for lotteries or sign up for emotional support through websites. They want to believe in something, so the odds are so scarce. They get piled into a list of suckers and they keep ripping them off over and over again. Whitney Rose knows the multi-level marketing system. Whitney Rose knows that most people that are buying these products on a subscription won't be able to use them fast enough and will lose money. And Whitney Rose better sure as hell know that I see it and I'm watching her like a hawk. And if anybody gets screwed in Soul People, which I could pretty much bet my money on tomorrow, I'm going to be covering it because her and her husband are in on it.
The only thing I'm guilty of is being Shah-mazing.
All right, so before I get into the Carlos King and Teresa Giudice interview, which I'm going to do my commentary as we go through the highlights of it in the next segment, I wanted to tell you that I found out that the reunion is not. For the full scoop, join the Dishing Drama Dana Patreon. The link is in this audio description. It's only $6 a month and you'll get the best information and tea about the things you care about. And even the things you don't know you care about. What are you waiting for?